The crystal chandeliers cast warm light across the marble floors of the Grand Metropolitan Hotel, where Daniel Rodriguez found himself in the most extraordinary moment of his 46 years. Daniel had been working as a maintenance supervisor at the hotel for nearly a decade now. His weathered hands, calloused from years of honest work, knew every corner of this elegant building. At home, his 15-year-old son, Miguel, waited for him each evening. Homework spread across their small kitchen table, always eager to hear about his father's day. Tonight was different. The hotel was hosting an international business summit, and Daniel had been asked to oversee the evening's cleaning operations. Delegates from around the world filled the ornate ballroom, their conversations a symphony of languages and cultures. As Daniel quietly worked, checking that everything was pristine for the evening's events, he couldn't help but think of his late wife, Rosa. She had always encouraged him to see the beauty in serving others, to take pride in work that made the world a little brighter. Every job has dignity, she used to say, when it's done with love. Near the grand staircase, a group of elegantly dressed women had gathered. Daniel recognized them as part of the Middle Eastern delegation, their traditional and modern attire blending beautifully as they conversed, in what sounded like Arabic. Then, from across the marble floor, came the unmistakable sound of expensive leather shoes clicking with purpose. Khalil al-Mansouri, one of the summit's most prominent attendees, approached the group. His tailored suit probably cost more than Daniel made in 3 months, and his presence commanded attention from everyone nearby. But as Khalil drew near the women's group, his eyes fell upon Daniel, who was carefully polishing a brass fixture nearby. Something shifted in the billionaire's expression. His voice, smooth and cultured, carried clearly across the polished marble as he spoke in Arabic to his companions. The words were meant to be private, meant to be safe in the assumption that a hotel janitor couldn't possibly understand. But Daniel, whose mother had emigrated from Lebanon 50 years ago, whose childhood had been filled with his grandmother's stories and ancient prayers, understood every syllable. "Look at this simple man," Khalil had said dismissively, "content to clean up after his betters, never dreaming of anything greater." The women looked uncomfortable. The surrounding delegates, sensing tension, grew quiet. Even those who didn't speak Arabic could feel the weight of what had just happened. Daniel straightened slowly. His hands, still holding the cleaning cloth, were steady. In that moment, he thought of his grandmother, Layla, who had taught him that true nobility came not from wealth, but from how we treat others when we think no one is watching. When Daniel spoke, his voice was calm and clear. Each Arabic word pronounced with the careful precision his grandmother had taught him decades ago. Inna akramakum inda Allahi atqakum. The room fell completely silent. Even the background conversation stopped. Khalil's face went pale, his confident expression replaced by something approaching shock. Daniel continued, still in Arabic, his voice gentle but unwavering. "My grandmother, may she rest in peace, taught me that the most honored among people are those who are most conscious of their responsibility to others." He paused, letting the ancient wisdom settle in the ornate space. "She also taught me that when someone shows you who they are, you should listen, but you should also remember that every person carries within them the capacity for goodness." The elegantly dressed women were staring now, not at Daniel with pity, but at Khalil with disappointment. One of them, a distinguished woman with silver hair, stepped forward. "Your grandmother was a wise woman," she said to Daniel in English, her accent cultured and warm. "I am Ambassador Fatima Al-Zahra. May I ask, where did you learn such beautiful Arabic?" Daniel smiled, and, for a moment, everyone could see not just a maintenance worker, but a man rich in heritage and wisdom. My grandmother came from Beirut, he said. She worked as a seamstress, but she taught me that education comes in many forms. She made sure I knew where I came from. Khalil, still recovering from his shock, looked around the room. The other delegates were watching him now, and their expressions were not kind. In trying to elevate himself by diminishing another, he had revealed his own poverty of spirit. Ambassador Al-Zahra turned to Khalil. Mr. Al-Mansouri, I believe you owe this gentleman an apology. The billionaire, perhaps for the first time in years, felt truly small. But Daniel, seeing the man's discomfort, stepped forward again. There is an old saying my grandmother taught me, Daniel said, still speaking Arabic but translating for the room. Man jada wa jada, whoever strives sincerely will succeed, but success, real success, is measured by how we lift each other up. He looked directly at Khalil, his eyes holding no anger, only a quiet dignity that filled the space. We all have moments we're not proud of. What matters is what we do next. Khalil, humbled by grace he hadn't expected, bowed his head slightly. I apologize, he said, first in Arabic, then in English. You are right to call out my ignorance. I spoke without thinking, without respect. Daniel nodded acceptance. We all make mistakes. The wisdom comes in learning from them. Later that evening, as Daniel finished his shift, Ambassador Al-Zahra approached him once more. Your grandmother would be very proud, she said quietly. Daniel smiled, thinking of Rosa, of Miguel waiting at home, of all the people who had shaped him into the man he'd become. She always said that the greatest inheritance we can leave our children isn't money. It's character, and the understanding that every person, regardless of their job or their bank account, deserves to be treated with dignity. As he walked home through the city streets, Daniel reflected on the evening's events. In a world that often seemed divided by wealth and status, by language and culture, he had been reminded that respect and kindness were universal languages, and somewhere, in a small apartment across town, Miguel was finishing his homework, getting ready to hear about his father's day, never knowing that his dad had just taught a room full of powerful people what true strength looked like. Sometimes, the most profound lessons come not from boardrooms or universities, but from the quiet wisdom of those who understand that we all share the same hopes, the same need for dignity, and the same capacity for grace. True nobility isn't about what language you speak or how much money you have. It's about remembering that we are all connected, and that the ancient wisdom of treating others with respect never goes out of style.